Helldivers 2 has been out for just over a week now, and already we've seen huge improvements to an already incredible game, from content updates and brand new missions to a plethora of bug fixes and constant communication from the devs. However, let's take that one step further as I share with you my top 12 updates and improvements that could be added to the game to make it even better. And also, please share your thoughts and opinions with me, because Helldivers 2 has been blowing up on this channel. So hopefully the devs themselves may even see this and take some of our suggestions into account for future updates. In no particular order, the first thing I've got on my list is the ability to transmog your armor. There are many stunning armor sets in this game. However, for me personally, some bonus effects far outweigh others, and they're not always necessarily on the best looking armor. So being able to wear my favorite armor set stat-wise whilst configuring it and modifying it to look like my current favorite set would be an absolute dream. In fact, hands up here everyone who will wear suboptimal armor sets just because it looks really cool, because I hope I'm not the only one. So the ability to carry on displaying my drip whilst also wearing the most beneficial armor for the current situation would be absolutely amazing in my eyes. The next thing I would love to see in this game is the ability to use stims at full health. We already know the devs don't shy away from letting us make mistakes. From friendly fire and literally being able to call down your stratagems on yourself and your teammates, all the way through to being able to reload your weapon after only shooting one bullet or accidentally cooking a grenade too long and blowing yourself up. They are more than happy to allow us to make stupid mistakes. So if I want to waste my stims at full health, please let me. But there is an actual gameplay reason for why I want to be able to do this. Sometimes you are being chased by so many enemies and you will run out of stamina. And if you didn't know, using a stim puts you back on full stamina as well as full health. So I will find that I sometimes deliberately allow myself to be hit so I can stim up to full stamina again and carry on running. And by allowing me to do this at full health, I then run the risk of accidentally wasting my stims. That's my own fault, but that's part of the fun. And allowing this mechanic to be used more freely, I think would open up some really cool gameplay options. Next up, I would love to see the implementation of a few more achievements in this game, specifically for performing certain feats. Some of my favourite achievements to acquire were, of course, shoot both arms off a Hulk and then extract whilst it's still alive, along with throwing a live grenade back in the face of the bot that threw it at me, and of course completing a full mission on hard difficulty or higher without anyone firing their primary or support weapon. This achievement in particular was amazing because we all brought in a total of 16 turrets and we just stood there, did nothing, and let our turrets do the shooting for us. A few more niche achievements like this that allow you to really stretch the possibilities of what you're capable of in this game, I think would be both very cool and incredibly entertaining. At number 4, quick and simple one, the ability to skip the mission completed screen. For the first dozen missions, it was really cool seeing this every single time, but it takes nearly a minute and a half. And if you're doing just 20 missions in a day, which isn't unrealistic, especially if you're just grinding easy missions, then easily that can equate to an hour of your playtime, and that really does start to take a while. I understand the reason this one might not be possible is because the mission completed screens could also be hiding hidden loading screens, which is actually a very clever way of doing it. But if we were able to skip these screens, that would make me so happy. Next up, we have to talk about Requisition. The only thing Requisition is used on is purchasing all your stratagems, and once you have bought every stratagem, which you do far quicker than you think you're going to, there is now no way at all to use your Requisition, and this will be completed far sooner than your war bonds, your ship modules, or your player levels. So your Requisition will very quickly cap out at 50,000 and you can now no longer earn any or do anything with it. My suggestion and my recommendation is to allow us to convert Requisition into war bonds. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this should be your primary way of farming war bonds, because making the progression systems too fast will put off some of your player base and people might stop playing just because they've finished everything. So I think somewhere in the range of 20 to 50,000 requisition you should be able to convert into one war bond. For instance, when your requisition maxes out at 50k, an option then unlocks for you to trade in that requisition for one war bond medal. I think this would be a perfect way to do it and would incentivize you to continue farming all forms of currency. These next two ideas are targeted more towards solo players. As someone who is incredibly introverted, my sociable energy levels plummet pretty fast, and after a few rounds of playing with friends, I just love to chill out with a few quiet, peaceful solo rounds. However, that isn't really possible at the moment unless you stick to challenging or below. So the first thing I'd love to see is a way for solo players to open bunkers. As you can see, I was desperately trying to get these corpses to spring to life and help me out, but they were just being incredibly unhelpful. So unfortunately, I just had to lay down and have a little cry, and accept the fact that I won't be able to open these bunkers because I have no friends. And my second suggestion for solo players is a more accessible mode that will reduce the amount of enemies. I would be more than happy if every enemy in the game still stayed just as challenging as if you had a 4-man squad. And I'm not saying solo play should be any easier, of course it should be harder, and you shouldn't really be able to attempt anything from Suicide Plus if you are playing by yourself. But I would love the implementation of something that would allow me to do hard or extreme with slightly reduced enemies, to make it at least possible if I still wanted to give myself a challenge, but I wanted to play by myself for a few rounds. Or even, maybe in the future, we might get AI companions. That would actually be an incredible idea. That I totally appreciate would be a very long-term vision compared to the rest of the other things I've suggested so far. But eventually allowing us to fill our squads with even half-decent AI, I think would be a fantastic inclusion into this game. Thing number 8 that I would like to see in this game is a clearer indication of where enemies are when you are choosing to drop on certain planets. As you can see here on Turing on this snowy planet, it's not too bad. I feel like the red flashing beacons could be a bit more prominent, but you can just about make them out, and this isn't too hard to deal with. However, if we now head to a more red planet, for example Errata Prime, and I jump in a Hellpod and go to the same mission screen, this is now practically impossible to see where the enemy presence is. Around the darker areas of the map, such as the black craters, it's still pretty visible. But even someone who has the most mild of visual impairments is really going to struggle trying to figure out where to land on these maps. So something that would improve the visibility and the indication of where the enemy hotspots are, I think would be a great addition to this area of the game. And as we're on the topic of talking about things that could be clearer, let's now address the descriptions of the weapons and boosters, and how these could and should be far more descriptive than they are. Let me give you just a couple of examples as we head on over to the armory. Firstly, I was very excited when I got right near the end of one of the Warbonds passes and I purchased the Breaker Spray and Pray. Due to the low damage of this weapon, I wasn't expecting it to be powerful. Of course, it is the lowest damage shotgun by far. However, let's look at the weapon traits, and just like all the other shotguns, this has light armor piercing. However, as you can see from this footage, it literally won't even penetrate the shell of an egg. This thing is so weak, it will not do damage to anything but scavengers and maybe hunters. It can't even destroy an egg. So some weapon traits seriously need to be more descriptive and clearer as to the actual power of the weapon. And again, when we look at the actual stats of the weapons, let's take the SMG-37 Defender as an example. When you compare it against all other submachine guns and assault rifles, its damage output far surpasses them. It makes it seem like an absolute tank of a weapon. And don't get me wrong, it is good, but is it nearly twice as powerful as every other assault rifle? It certainly doesn't feel so. So I would like a few more stats here actually explaining exactly what these damage numbers mean. And also the capacity, I don't believe that takes into consideration how many reloads of each weapon you get. So until you load into an operation with your weapon, you don't know exactly how much bang you're going to be getting for your buck. That's my rant over for the weapons. Now let me show you what I mean with the boosters. Stamina enhancement, I would love to see a percentage here. Is it a 10% increase, a 20% increase? Things like that seem really crucial. Same for the UAV recon booster. And my greatest pet peeve is the flexible reinforcement budget. I want to know exactly how much time is reduced until new reinforcements are granted. At current, it is 2 minutes, which is a hell of a long time. Does this only knock off a few seconds? Does it halve the time? I would really like to know all of these things ahead of time before I have to get into the worst case scenario first and then find out when it's probably already too late. Number 10 is a new button or option on the loadout screen that would allow you to equip your most recently used loadout, or even take that one step further and have a few presets. Obviously, I'm not saying you should use the same stratagems every single mission. It's always good to try new things, and it's always good to test out new combinations. But if you know you have a favorite set for defense missions or solo missions or open map against the bots, it would be amazing to be able to select your last loadout or select preset number 1 or preset number 2 and have that ready to go. And talking of trying new stratagems, I know the game has only just been out a little over a week, but number 11 is more stratagems, more weapons, more of everything. I'm sure this is something that's already in the works, but I can't stress enough how much fun I am having with this game. This video isn't meant to be a rant. I love this game, and I purely want what's best for it. So more of everything would be absolutely incredible. And my friends, as we're talking about more of everything, if you enjoy my videos and would like more of them, please consider subscribing to the channel. My god, wasn't that the cringiest plug ever? I am so sorry. If I haven't put you off with that plug, please do consider subscribing. A huge portion of people that watch aren't subscribed, completely free to do, and it really helps the channel out. And thank you so much for doing so. And my final thing I would absolutely love to see in Helldivers 2 is a way to truly play solo should you want to. And let me explain why, because that may seem counterintuitive in a game like this and completely against what the game is going for. The first part of my reasoning is a little bit selfish. As someone who needs to capture lots of footage, sometimes it can really throw off my recording if people are jumping in willy-nilly. Now, I know I can set myself to offline, I know I can change it to friends only, turn crossplay off. That's about all I can do. People can still join my mission. And if I'm right in the middle of something very specific, it can ruin that take and waste a lot of time. But trust me, this isn't just a rant, there's another even better reason that would apply for everyone. Just imagine if you could play solo and you could pause the game and even better, have a photo mode. Obviously, at current, photo mode just isn't possible because the missions are always going. There's no way to pause. It's always online, which is great. I love it. That's how it should be. But if there was a separate mode to allow you to take some incredibly gorgeous screenshots, I think that would just take the engagement for this game up to 11, because there are some stunning scenes and some really awesome moments. And unless you are physically recording and able to go back and screenshot after the fact and add some cool filters and effects, it's very hard to get really impressive mid-action shots. So a way to add some kind of photo mode would make me extremely excited. And finally, I know I said it at the start of the video, but for anyone who's forgotten, please let me know in the comments the biggest improvements, additions, and updates you would like to see to Helldivers 2. And with that, all that's left for me to say, my friends, is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.